This is the beginning of the first ISIS dive on our tropics cruise. We planned this dive down to about 1 kilometre below the sea surface to collect deep sea corals and other samples to take back to the lab for analysis. We're trying to make a systematic evaluation of where corals live in the deep sea and why, so as well as corals we're also looking at their habitats and the seawater chemistry that they live in.
The deep sea is the largest habitat on Earth and arguably the least explored. Many of the creatures that we find have never been filmed before, and a substantial portion of those that we collect are likely to be new to science. To assess this, we have to make sure that they are preserved correctly so that taxonomists can identify them. So, as ISIS gets to the surface, we carefully rehouse the animals in buckets of very, very cold water, similar to that they're used to existing in, to keep them alive for as long as possible. We transfer them into the cold room on ship and start the very long process of cataloguing each individual. This involves taking images of each individual, taking DNA samples for genetic studies if necessary, and then preserving them in the correct solution for taxonomists to then assess what species we have when we get back to land.
We study the chemistry of the seawater where the corals are growing by sending down giant bottles that we open up at depth. They then are brought up to the surface and we can sample the waters. Some of the water is analysed on the ship and some of it is preserved so we can take it back to the UK for analysis.
Our second sampling goal on these ISIS dives is to collect fossilised corals and sediment cores that we can analyse to tell us about the history of this part of the ocean.
So we are taking sediment cores in this cruise because it's our way to obtain a record that extends beyond the instrumental record that we only have for, let's say, about the 4 last centuries. And sediment cores, they act like if it was a huge book in which sediment layers are the pages. So the pages that go towards the end of the book are the pages that were deposited many, many years ago. So we can study these layers of sediment starting from the bottom, moving upwards to the tops, and that's the direction of the arrow of time. So that's one way of us to get knowledge about the past and try and get insight and know how it will work towards the future.